Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to tell you all the story about how I had to make the very difficult decision to choose between true love and being out and gay and proud over being a parishioner and joining the C organization at the Church of Scientology. Now before I get into that, I want to let you guys know that the episode that I appeared on yesterday on Storage Wars is now streaming online on the A&E website. The most suppressive network on television, A&E. That should be their slogan. But anyways, my episode I'm going to link down below in the description box if you want to go check that out on the A&E website. The episode is called L. Ron Yupper. And if you're trying to find me in the episode, my appearance starts at 17 minutes and 4 seconds. So I would love to hear your thoughts about the episode down in the comment box below. Let me know what you think about the episode. And if you haven't seen it already, it's really great. I give a stress test to Dave. He bought an e-meter in a storage unit, and he brought it to me as the expert to look it over and to give it an appraisal. And I actually did give it value. So if you guys are interested in hearing how I valued the e-meter, please go down in the description box and click on the A&E link, and it will take you over to that episode. So, rewinding back to a couple years ago, I was in the Church of Scientology and I was closeted, and I wasn't out to anyone, like not a friend, a family member. I was completely suppressing my homosexuality. I hate using that word because it makes it seem like it's a sickness, like the homosexuality that you had to hide from everyone. But it's true, me being a gay man, I wasn't out because I was in a very homophobic church. The Church of Scientology does not like gay people. They'll take gay money, but until you run out of your gay money, then you're pretty much done in the eyes of Scientology. They think gays are 1-1s, which are basically equivalent to a sexual pervert criminal that's basically right above body death. I talk about that as well in other videos, so I don't want to go into too much about that. But just know that Scientology is not favorable to being gay. Now, I grew up in a Roman Catholic household, and I went to Catholic school all my life. The nun spanking you with the ruler, like it was very strict. And in the words of my mother, there's not gay people from like where we live. And it was just always seen as something that like maybe you saw her on television or something. Like I didn't know any gay people growing up. Everyone bullied me very severely for them assuming that I was gay, and obviously I am, so they really weren't too far off, but calling me the worst names in the book. And I always felt so alone because no one, like not a teacher, like they would bully me in front of the whole entire class. Like they'd raise their hand and say, "Hey, did you know Stephen Mango's a faggot?" And teachers didn't stand up for me. They'd laugh and I'd be crying in the back of the room. So it was always, for me, something that I didn't want to be because I was so used to getting bullied and made fun of that I thought that being gay was wrong. And when I came to LA, within a month of coming to LA, I got into Scientology. I was 17, 18 years old, so I wasn't really an adult for very long, and all my adult views were all shaped by Scientology, and I never really got that experience I never really got to explore my faith or sexuality or anything on my own. It was all kind of shaped by my Catholic growing up church experiences and then my Scientology experiences. And I had a very religious household, so religion was such a strong part of my life that you trusted your faith. And even though I got into Scientology, like I clearly didn't trust the Catholic faith that much if I went into another faith, but in the sense of that religion was like the top-notch thing. It wasn't something that was like, you go pray a little bit. It was a hardcore activity, and you believe every word in the Bible, or in terms of L. Ron Hubbard, he's considered source. So that's how things kind of were starting out. So I came to LA, even though I'm right in West Hollywood, which was like the gayest place you could ever be, but I couldn't really celebrate my sexuality or being able to go on dates and do other things, because I instantly get in Scientology and I'm told that being gay is wrong. It's something that they can audit out in terms of if you're going to go through their spiritual counseling. But here's the thing. I didn't trust even telling my own family that I was gay. I wasn't going to tell Scientology. So it didn't make sense that I would be out to Scientology, not out to everyone else. And I wasn't ready to come out. So it was me forcing myself deeper in the closet, unfortunately, at that time. And it was it was really hard, you know. I'd be on the e-meter and they'd be asking me questions about my sexuality, if I went on any dates with any girls, did I screw any girls, did someone give me a blowjob, am I smoking marijuana? Like, if I didn't show up for course, like, they'd ask me, like, all these weird questions. But in terms of the sexuality, it was always brought up before I started a course. I'd be getting on the e-meter and they'd ask me a whole list of different questions before I was able to go onto my course, right? Or receive any auditing or any of that sort of stuff. But it was always kind of like eating at me. And it was very difficult because here I am, this young kid, stuck in Scientology, thousands of miles away from all my friends, all my family members. I'm alone. And eventually when I got more deeper into Scientology, it was my whole entire life. I didn't want to risk losing that because I truly believe that my spiritual immortality rested in the hands of the auditors and the people who'd be guiding me through the bridge to total freedom and going on different Scientology auditing levels, so on and so forth. And I feel like I invested so much into my Scientology in those 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, up until this point, that I couldn't get myself to just be honest with my sexuality. I'd write up my crimes and my OWs and all this sort of stuff in Scientology, but I always had that one hidden thing that should have been like number one, I'm gay. But I didn't want to do that because I was afraid I was going to risk being able to be an auditor or to join the Sea Org in the future. I didn't want to risk like my Scientology career just because of what I was now conditioned to believe was just like my sexual desires and my aberrations and engrams and all these different things that were almost like polluting my mind. Like I think of like my mind and like the reactive mind's like all the smoke in it, and eventually you have to blow all the smoke out, and then you're back to like your basic self, which is just your pure, innocent, just basic optimal self that is not corrupted, does not have any viewpoints or anything that are inflicting the mind to feel a certain way that's not considered normal. If that makes any sense. I know Scientology doesn't make very much sense to many people, or to anyone at that matter, but you have to try to force yourself to believe all that sort of stuff, right? So eventually I was getting a little bit more courage to go on like some dating apps, and to like that sort of stuff was starting to like get popular, and just like on online dating websites and that sort of stuff. And I came across this guy named Jeff, and Jeff and I were talking, whatever, but probably like 2-3 weeks before I met Jeff, I was on IAS posters as the lifetime member. That was advertised right outside the examiner's office at Celebrity Center. So when you went to go see the examiner, you'd see Stephen Mango up on the wall on that poster, and he's just radiating so much theta that everyone's needle's going to float at the examiner's office, and everyone's going to have wins and whatever, and there's all their little kookiness, right, that they're trying to feed you and love bomb you for making this $5,000 donation, and we're going to put you on that poster. But really, here I am secretly like talking to guys on the internet and that sort of thing, and I wasn't being honest to myself, but it's not like I was lying or something about something. It's not like I was doing something wrong. It's just like, that's like the coming out process. It's hard to explain it unless you've really gone through that, where it's almost like stages of grief. Like you go in like denial, like, no, I'm not gay, I'm straight, and I went to strip clubs and stuff and try to feel like, you know, maybe I could, you know, learn to desire women or something like that. And then I go into a phase where I'm like, oh, you know, it's just a sickness, and, you know, I'm going to get auditing, and I'm going to go up the tone scale, and eventually I'm going to be better from this sickness that I have. I went through phases where I was hating Scientology, screw them, I'm going to be who I am. Other places where I was like, I just want to fit in, I just want to feel like I belong. All my life, I was a kid who was bullied for being gay. I was told that it was wrong, and now I finally feel like I belong as part of this group, and no one gets that. And people try to write comments on the internet or write to me, and people just don't understand, like, you belong somewhere, when all your life you don't feel like you belong somewhere. I did not resonate with where I grew up. I was feeling so ashamed every single day that I was being bullied, and no one stood up for me, and they put this stupid commercial up on the smart board in high school that I did like the salsa dancing commercial, and everyone was making fun of me and bullying for me in front of the whole class, the whole school. They played this commercial and call me a faggot. Like, I had severe post-traumatic stress disorder from all the bullying. You know, just faggot. They'd call me every sort of name in the book, and it was usually just revolving around my sexuality, of course. But now I'm finally in this group that, even though I have to kind of hide a big part of who I am, I now have this like step-by-step guide where I can go from the bottom all the way up to the top, which is the bridge of total freedom, to get that spiritual immortality, the happiness, and find out who I truly am, and get spiritual and find peace and all these things that I was really craving to have in my life. And the reason I say like this step-by-step guide is because when you're an actor, for example, like I was when I was first in LA, the thing is that there's no step-by-step way. You can work hard for 20 years and never book a job. You can show up off the Greyhound bus and boom, you book a series. There's no, like, if you do this, you achieve this level of success. So even though I could be hammering it out every acting class, doing everything I ever could do in order to set myself up for success, get headshots, demo reels, meeting casting directors, blah, 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 it never means I'm going to get this right here, which is that acting job. So it's very discouraging, but here Scientology is saying is if you follow this path step by step, you're basically guaranteed to get out of your spiritual trap that you're stuck in. And I had my Div 6 registrars, hint at me that if you were gay, or if you happen to be gay, there is a step-by-step auditing procedure that you can go on, like a program, basically, that the case supervisor can come up with a program for you, and you can audit out being gay, essentially. So that all sounded appealing to me. So here I am, and I find like this may be the solution to my homosexual problem. So I meet Jeff, and we go on a date, and this is all while all this sort of stuff is happening. I'm on the posters, I'm debating what to do about my sexuality because it's getting a little bit more harder to keep it a secret, and I'm very flamboyant, and my gestures and stuff, it's, people are asking me more and more if I'm gay, and I have to say no, and I feel like I'm just like pushing myself further and further in the closet because I keep denying it, and you start to believe your own lies almost. And that was what was kind of happening in terms of my sexuality. And Jeff and I went on our first date, and right away Jeff and I were talking about religion and spirituality, just like in the car or whatever. He asked me about my religious affiliations. I said, I don't know why we were talking about this on like a first date. Again, it's probably not the best subject to talk about on a first date. We're now married almost 4 or 5 years, so we've been together 5 years now. But I said, I'm exploring my different faiths. I've been a Catholic, I'm exploring Buddhism, I practice Scientology, and also I've been looking at it. He's like, Scientology, that's a cult. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh great, now here I am on a date with a suppressive person, because I'm thinking Scientology is the greatest religion on earth. Of course he says that because he's gay and he's 1-1. And I'm like, well, wait a second, I'm really probably the 1-1 gay person, because I am gay, so who am I to judge him? Because in Scientology's eyes, I'm probably a 1-1 gay person, but they didn't know that. They thought I was at the top of this tone scale because I'm this exuberant, happy, like, hey, like I'm on course, and they love that. And I had a sense of humor, and Scientology always said it, like, you're so funny, you have such a sense of humor, because so many times people are there, they're just so downtoned and depressed and like, ugh, and sluggish and that sort of thing. So here I am now, feeling all these feelings for Jeff, but inside myself, I'm not ready to be in a relationship, probably. Like, I'm not comfortable with myself, and I'm in this like very weird place with Scientology and trying to figure out what to do with being gay, and what if we start dating, and how am I supposed to be going on dates with this guy and be going to Scientology, and he doesn't support it, and Scientology doesn't support gays, and I'm gay and they're not going to support me, but I'm on these posters, and I'm disseminating Scientology with my Way to Happiness booklets, and I'm doing all these different Scientology activities, and that's now what I'm associating my life to. Because remember, I gave up on my acting career for a little while because I was going full-fledged hard on going on to Scientology. So I had like a really tough decision to make. Now, this is the thing. I was about to go to Flag. I was going to Flag. Okay, so I met Jeff on like May 16th. I was about to go to Flag around like June 12th, because I was maybe going to do like a Flag only rundown or two. I forget exactly what program I was on that I was going to be doing. But when I was there, I was basically going to surprise everyone at graduation and say, hey, like, I'm joining the Sea Org, and sign my contract. And I was really excited to move down to Florida so I can devote myself as a Sea Org member. Of course, I wouldn't be able to be gay, but they don't know I'm gay, so it's fine. I can squeeze the cans on an e-meter a certain way and get a floating needle, so that's no big deal. And being able to, you know, pursue my Scientology dream. But here I am so in love, where I'm head over heels, like this person is not only giving me butterflies, but this person is, like, unless you're in love or you've married someone or something, you don't get how it feels to know someone's your soulmate, like deep down, like inside your body, where you know, like, this is someone you may have known in a past life, or I don't know, like, you just get that feeling where it's like you feel at home with that person, and you know that they're on the same page and they're like one with you. Like, I felt like we like intertwined in a way. So even though we were only dating, I could have given up on him, but I couldn't let him go. If it was just like some average, just like Tinder date or something, of course you'd say, oh yeah, screw him, whatever. It was 2-3 dates. But I was already very much in love, and I knew the second I met him I was marrying him, which is creepy, but I knew 100% like, I'm marrying this guy. I know that because that's how much I loved him, and no one treated me how he treated me, and I don't know, it was a new feeling for me, let's put it that way. And it's interesting now that I think about it, like, why would I have had to lie about my sexuality and who I am and be in the closet and come up with all these stories and deny who I am to go on this self-betterment program, if that's what you want to consider Scientology, like a self-help philosophy. And I'm going into that thinking that I'm trying to elevate myself spiritually, which is not possible to do in Scientology because there's so much suppression and corruption and whatever, if one is trying to do so. I'm not an independent Scientologist, but I'm just saying, because I know someone's going to say something in the comments. But again, so going up these levels of spiritual immortality, but here I am not being authentic and true to who I am. So once I kind of realized that, it was easier for me to kind of say, you know, and once I was kind of able to realize that, and once Jeff opened my eyes and said Scientology a cult, and talking to me about different things that Scientology did regarding LGBT individuals and their stances, and just in general with technical things, because again, when you're a Scientologist, if someone's pointing out to you about how LRH did things this way versus how David Miscavige is doing stuff, in a Scientologist's mind, that's how to wake another Scientologist up, in my opinion. And I actually had an interesting thing when I was protesting last year. This guy came up to me when I was protesting, and he's like, I had so many wins, and I am OT8 or whatever he was, and you know, I am doing amazing in life. And I said, well, think about what Scientology has done to not only just me, but to hundreds and thousands of people that spoke out. And yeah, to you, your religion, you may feel that it's benefiting you, but look at what it's done to everyone, whether it's forced abortions, missing people, how they hate gay people, and how the tech has changed, and the corruption in the church, and all these different things. It's like, okay, you may feel like maybe you're getting a little bit of personal development on your first dynamic, but have you looked at just, you know, not even just the group, but just like mankind in general, in terms of what Scientology has done to harm other individuals? It's not a good, spiritual, healthy group to be a part of. But when you're in, I was explaining to a friend yesterday, when you're in the constant go, 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 and you're in Scientology and Thursday by 2, and you're on these courses and you have to get them done, and you're there sun up to sundown, I'm signing up for this course, and this org's calling me, and I have to do, you know, help with central files at this org, and I have to do this seminar at night to help with fundraising for the IAS. And once you're just kind of like, and you can kind of like chill out for a few weeks, because I didn't go back for a few weeks, because I had to kind of figure out myself. And then I was looking around, and I was kind of like sitting with myself, and I was saying, something's not right here, something's wrong. And then once I was realizing and Googling and figuring out what was wrong with Scientology, it was easy for me to understand, like, oh, that's why all these different things were happening to me. They were scamming me. It wasn't really for the betterment of mankind. It's because David Miscavige is a greedy, money-hungry asshole, amongst many other adjectives and other things that he is. So I had to learn the hard way after spending several years until I really was able to look into it. But I was so involved, I didn't think I needed to Google it, because even though there were some crazy things that happened, I felt like this was one of the greatest things you can do, was to receive auditing, go up the bridge, whatever. So until I was able to distance myself from that and actually start forming my own viewpoint outside of Scientology, that's when I was able to start seeing things, and that's when I was able to start dissecting and learning about my sexuality. So I would say Jeff took me to Vegas on my birthday We were only dating for 6 weeks, and Jeff got us a suite at the Bellagio, just like winning me over. Like, you don't need to do things like that for me. Like, you can just buy me like one flower and I'd probably like suck your dick, you know, back in the day. Like, not now, I'm married, but back in the day, like, that's all probably it would have taken. Like, you don't need to like wine and dine me. I like that. I like nice things, of course, but Jeff was really smitten for me as I was for him, and he took me on this like birthday week trip, whatever. But I ended up getting sick like when I was on that trip for a few days, but it was still very romantic. And then he got sick for a few days, but it wasn't the greatest first trip that we've ever taken. But him taking care of me when I was sick, after only knowing me for 6 weeks, and then seeing him sick and having to take care of him, and I really had to make that decision. Like, do I want to give up on this relationship, just go to Flag, join the Sea Org, forget about it, just because I think I'm doing a bigger purpose in Scientology? What do I do? How do I handle this situation? Like, I didn't really meet him at a great time, but then again, I did in the other side, because he did kind of save me from Scientology. I would have been in the Sea Org right now, or probably would have escaped, but I obviously think Jeff was an angel in my life, because what happens if I did join Scientology, in terms of joining the Sea Organization, or going to Flag, or doing any of those things, or joining staff at Celebrity Center? There were just a lot of decisions that I had to make. But when I was on this trip with Jeff, I lied to my mom, and I told her that I was in Vegas with my friend Krisha. I felt it was an out point if I said I was gay, and I didn't want my family to judge me. I ended up coming out to my mom on the telephone, and I called her like 2-3 weeks after, and I knew our relationship was serious, even though it was only 2 months into the relationship. I felt it was very serious. I called my mom on the phone. Luckily, they came to accept it, and they love Jeff more than me. Like, if you had to ask, they love Jeff way more than they love me. Like, they love Jeff. Even at the wedding and everything, like, they support Jeff so much. Now, on the other side, my in-laws hate me, and it's kind of interesting because I thought my family would have hated Jeff, and they actually loved Jeff, and his family was very critical and judgmental of me and whatever. I don't want to get into that on my Scientology channel. That's a whole nother video, but anyways, I came out. And then a couple months later, Jeff proposed to me in Las Vegas at the Encore at the Wynn, which is my favorite hotel and casino in the world, and just my favorite place ever. And then we got married at the Wynn in Las Vegas a few months later. We got legally married like in our backyard, because it wasn't legal to get married in Vegas at the time. But then we had the ceremony in Las Vegas 5 days apart from our legal wedding. And yeah, that's basically what happened. I fell in love, and I was saved from the grips of Scientology, and it was honestly the best thing that could have happened to me. It was perfect timing. Like, I always think, like, what if I ignored Jeff, or I didn't answer his message or something? I could have been still struggling with trying to figure out what to do with the Church of Scientology. So I had to tell Scientology to screw off. I changed my phone number. I made my first video on my channel that has over 700,000 views now, where exposed Scientology, and they obviously declared me a suppressive person, and I am obviously no longer a member of Scientology, thank God. So yeah, that's basically the story of what happened when I had to choose between the love of my life and the Church of Scientology, and it could have been much worse. Oh, and if you guys are on Twitter, I'd highly recommend going on my page, @StephenMango. I'm doing a little bit of a social media campaign, because I'm trying to get on Leah Remini's show to tell her a couple stories that I have regarding Scientology, and I posted one yesterday, and I got about like 1,500 retweets or 1,700 likes on the status. Thanks so much, guys, for campaigning behind me to try to get me on Leah's show. I don't know if I'll be on season 2 or not, but I'm just trying to make a little bit of noise to get on the show, so I'd highly recommend tweeting Mike and Leah and let them know that you want to see Stephen Mango on season 2, and I'm hoping that will trigger Leah and Mike to give me a call to appear on the show. And yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please, if you like my videos, click subscribe down below and click the little bell icon as well, and that'll notify you when I make new videos. Comment down below, and I'll see you at my next video. Thanks so much for watching.